The stars above Villar Prime sparkled like frozen fireflies. Princess Zivila stood on the edge of her palace balcony, staring at them. They used to give her peace. Now, they only reminded her of everything she was about to lose. She pressed her hands against the cold silver railing, her skin glowing softly with the bioluminescent light of her kind, the Villari. Her long, elegant robes fluttered gently in the evening breeze. Her silver eyes reflected worry, not wonder. Tomorrow she would marry a human, a Terran. She had read about them. Brutal, loud, short-lived creatures. Always expanding, always fighting. They came from a planet called Earth, filled with oceans and chaos. For decades, they had been rising too fast, too strong, and now, to stop a full war between their empires. The Villari High Council had decided the fastest way to peace was a marriage. Her marriage, the next morning. The great landing arena buzzed with ceremony. Dignitaries from both species sat in rows of crystal thrones. Alien flowers floated in the air. Releasing waves of color and scent, Princess Zivla walked down the aisle with her head high, but her heart full of fire. This was not love. It was not choice. It was duty. Her father, the Emperor, had made it clear, if she refused, the council would name her a traitor. At the far end of the aisle, a human ship had just landed. It was not beautiful. It was old, dented, painted with black and red stripes, like something pulled out of a scrapyard. Villari nobles exchanged disgusted whispers. Then the ramp hissed open. Her future husband stepped out. He was not what she expected. Captain Jack Reeve stood tall in his worn-out combat armor. His face was weathered from battle, with a scar across his left brow. His dark hair was messy, and his beard looked like it hadn't seen a royal brush in months. A silver dog tag swung from his neck. He didn't bow, didn't even smile. He just looked at her, calm, steady, and unreadable. And for a second, Zivla forgot how to speak. Later, inside the Hall of Unity, the two stood face to face in front of 1,000 witnesses. The Villari High Priest began the joining ceremony. In this moment, two stars align, one from fire, one from frost. May they bring peace between the stars. Zivla raised her hand, as tradition demanded. I, Zivla of House Lurian, offer alliance through honor. Jack blinked, then scratched the back of his neck. Yeah. Accept, or whatever. The crowd gasped. Some Villari clutched their chests in horror. Even the priest froze. Zivila's face remained calm, but her mind was screaming. What have they done? Hours later, in their private quarters aboard the Villari, diplomatic flagship Unity's Edge, Zivla finally exploded. That was a sacred right. You embarrassed both our peoples. Jack was unpacking a small duffel bag. He looked around the glowing room full of floating light orbs and soft music. Call this private? There's like glowing stuff everywhere. Zivla folded her arms. Are all humans so... so uncultured? Jack sat on the edge of the couch. Lady, I spent most of my life fighting on frozen moons and rusted cargo ships. I didn't come here to impress rich aliens. Came here because Earth Command told. Me too. Zevla narrowed her eyes. You don't even want this union. Jack met her gaze. Do you? Silence, she turned away. No, she said quietly. The days passed slowly. They attended diplomatic events together. They sat side by side during council meetings. Cameras followed their every move, feeding the image of unity. But behind closed doors, it was a different story. Zivla kept her distance. She meditated in the garden room, surrounded by glowing flowers from her homeworld. Jack jogged in the cargo bay, using old metal crates as weights. Sometimes they fought. Sometimes they ignored each other completely. But slowly, something began to change. Zivla noticed how Jack treated his human crew. He didn't bark orders like a soldier, joked with them, helped with repairs, even played cards during breaks. They respected him not because of his rank, but because he earned it. And Jack noticed how Zevla, despite her cold outer shell, was incredibly sharp. In one council meeting, she outmaneuvered 3 seasoned Valari politicians with just a few clever questions and a raised eyebrow. They started talking more. One evening, while watching a holographic star map, Zivla asked, "Why did you really accept this?" Jack stared at the map, "'Cause war's a monster. I've seen it tear apart families, planets. My own brother died in the first Valari assault." Zivla looked at him, surprised. "I'm sorry," she said softly. Jack shrugged. He was a good man. He believed we'd make peace one day. "I guess this marriage is the stupid, crazy version of that hope." For the first time, Zevela didn't feel anger toward him. She felt something else. One night, an explosion shook the Unity's edge. The alarms blared. Lights flickered. Jack grabbed his old rifle. "Stay here," Zivla followed. "I'm not some porcelain doll, Captain." They rushed through the smoke-filled halls. Saboteurs had breached the engineering deck. A rogue Valari faction, furious about the Union. Jack fought like a beast, fast, brutal, smart, used his surroundings like weapons. A wrench, a steel pipe, even a frying pan. Zivla shielded wounded crew members using her telepathic powers, blocking one attacker's mind before he could detonate a bomb. Together, they ended the threat. Together, they saved the ship. Later bruised and exhausted, Jack handed Zivla a water pack. "You all right, princess?" She gave him a tired smile. "I better now." The next morning, the High Council praised their bravery. The Union's approval ratings rose across both species. But more importantly, something invisible shifted between Zevla and Jack. They still weren't in love. They still didn't hold hands or exchange sweet words. But now, when she looked at him, Zevela didn't see a wild human. She saw a fighter, an equal. And Jack, when he saw her walk into the strategy room, with her glowing skin and razor mind, didn't see just a fancy alien girl anymore. He saw a partner. Princess Zivela sat at the long table in the diplomatic chamber. Her hands rested gently in her lap, her face calm. But inside, her thoughts were sharp as blades. Across from her, Captain Jack Reeve sat slouched in his chair, legs wide, arms crossed. He looked bored, maybe annoyed, or both. They had been listening to the Valari High Council argue with Earth's command for over an hour. "Your species wants too much control over the trade routes," a Valari elder hissed. "And your people want too much control over everything." A Terran diplomat snapped back. Jack glanced at Zivla and whispered, "I thought this marriage was supposed to help with peace," Zivla replied without looking at him. "So did I." After the meeting, they walked side by side through the glass corridors of Unity's edge. Outside the windows, stars drifted past like slow sparks. The ship was massive, half city, half fortress. It was built for peace but ready for war. Jack sighed. "You ever feel like none of these people actually want peace?" Zivla nodded slowly. "They want control. Peace is just a tool." Jack rubbed the back of his neck. "I miss Earth. Things were simple. You knew who wanted to kill you." Raised an eyebrow. "And now?" Jack grinned. "Now they wear fancy robes and talk too much." That made her laugh. A soft, short sound. Jack blinked in surprise. It was the first time he had heard her laugh. The next few days were tense. Whispers of rebellion ran through the Valari ranks. Some nobles believed the marriage was a disgrace. Others said the humans were using Zevla as a puppet. One night, while Jack cleaned his old combat rifle, he received a message from Earth Command. The voice on the screen was hard and cold. "Captain Reeve, your mission remains the same. Protect the treaty, protect the princess, but keep an eye on her. She may be loyal to Velar before she's loyal to us." Jack's jaw clenched. "Not a threat. Just do your duty, Captain." The message ended. Jack stared at the screen. He hated this game. He was a soldier, not a spy. Meanwhile, Zevla was meeting with her old mentor. "Advisor Tolan. You must be careful," Tolan warned. "There are factions in the council who want this marriage to fail." Zevla stood by the window, arms folded. "I know. They already tried to kill me once." Tolan's tone was serious. "This is more than politics, Princess. Some believe humans are dangerous, that they must be stopped, permanently. Zivella didn't answer right away. She thought of Jack, how he fought off the saboteurs, how he protected the crew without hesitation. "He's not what they think," she said finally. Tolan tilted his head. "And what do you think?" Zevla didn't respond. Later that night, while returning from the observation deck, Zivla's guards were ambushed. Masked attackers burst from the shadows, weapons drawn. "For Veeler." One of them shouted. Zivla dropped low and sent a shockwave of mental energy forward. One attacker screamed and dropped his weapon, but there were too many. Then, gunfire echoed through the hallway. Jack appeared from the side corridor, rifle raised, firing in quick bursts. 3 attackers dropped instantly. He charged forward, shoulder slamming. "One into the wall, Zevla. Get down," he shouted. She did. Another blast rang out. The last attacker fell. Silence. Breathing hard, Jack stepped over the bodies and reached for her. "You all right?" Zevla's face was pale but calm. "I'm fine." "Not anymore," Jack muttered. "From now on, I'm your shadow." That night, security doubled across the ship. Both Earth and Valari leaders were furious. Accusations flew like arrows. But in the quiet corners of the ship, things were changing. Zivla and Jack sat in the training room. She was meditating. He was cleaning his weapons. "Why do you carry that old thing?" Zivla asked, pointing to his rifle. Jack shrugged. "Saved my life too many times to trade it in." She watched him in silence. "You saved mine again." Jack looked up. "Just doing my job. But you didn't have to risk your life. You could have called security. You ran into danger." Jack leaned back. "Maybe I didn't like the idea of losing the only person on this ship who doesn't talk like a walking contract." That made her smile again. The next morning, they attended a joint ceremony in the Garden Dome. It was supposed to be a show of unity. Flowers from Earth and Veelor bloomed side by side. Kids from both species sang songs of peace. As they walked through the dome, people clapped. Some humans cheered Jack's name. Some Valari bowed to Zevla. For the first time, they didn't walk apart. They walked together. But peace never lasted long that night. Fire broke out in the main communication center. The ship's core nearly overloaded. And Zevla rushed. "To the control deck," engineers shouted over each other. "We're locked out. Someone reprogrammed the firewall." Jack slammed his fist on the console. "Can you trace it?" One technician nodded. "It came from inside. Someone on this ship." Zevelle stepped forward, her voice cold. "We need to find out who. Now." He launched an internal investigation. The data trail pointed to someone unexpected, Advisor Tolan. Zivla's eyes widened. "No, that's impossible." Jack frowned. "Anyone can betray. It doesn't matter how long you've known them." "But he raised me," she whispered. They confronted Tolan in the garden. He stood by the crystal pond, hands behind his back. "I warned you. The humans are changing you." "They saved me," Zivla said. "Jack saved me." Tolan's expression hardened. "Then you're already lost." He drew a hidden blade. Small, fast, deadly. Jack stepped in front of Zivla. "You don't want to try that, old man? I trained her to rule. I won't let her kneel to savages." Tolan lunged. Zivla raised her hand and struck with a wave of psychic energy. Tolan froze mid-step, eyes wide, then collapsed. Guards rushed in. Tolan was arrested. Zivla turned away, her face tight. Jack stood beside her. "You okay?" "No," she whispered, "but I will be." Later, they sat together in the observation room. Zivla stared out at the stars. "I trusted him." Jack leaned forward. "Trust is hard, especially when the people you're supposed to rely on start acting like enemies." She looked at him. "And yet I trust you." Jack blinked, surprised. "Even after all this?" She nodded. "You've been honest? Blunt? Annoying sometimes? But honest." Jack smiled. "Well, I'm not about to start acting polite now." She smiled too, a soft, real one. They didn't hold hands. They didn't kiss, but something deeper had formed, a partnership forged in fire and lies. The news spread fast. Tolan was a traitor. He had planned to destroy the treaty from the inside, but Princess Zivla and Captain Reeve had stopped him together. Suddenly, people began to believe again. Maybe this marriage wasn't just a symbol. Maybe it was the beginning of something real. The stars outside the ship blinked silently, but inside Unity's edge, things were no longer calm. The attempted sabotage by Advisor Tolan had shaken everyone. People were scared. Whispers filled the corridors about the treaty, about the princess, about the human captain who kept saving her life. Princess Zivila sat alone in the meditation room, her silver eyes closed, her hands resting in her lap. The soft hum of the ship surrounded her. But her mind was not at peace. Tolan's betrayal had cut deep. He was the last person she expected to turn against her. And yet he had. The door hissed open behind her. She didn't need to turn. "Jack, wow," Jack said, stepping inside. "You can even hear footsteps in a soundproof room." "Felt your presence," she replied softly. "Humans are loud." Jack chuckled. "Not always a bad thing." He sat on the floor beside her, leaning back on his arms. For a while they said nothing. Then he asked, "You still thinking about him?" Zivila nodded. "I trusted him. And he tried to destroy everything." "Yeah, well, some people wear loyalty like a mask," Jack said. "But you didn't let it break you." She looked at him. "I didn't have to. You were there." Their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them. The next day, the ship prepared to dock at a neutral station for supplies. The station Corin's reach floated between Valari and Earth-controlled space. It was old, rusted, and full of traitors, spies, and people who didn't care about politics. "Why are we stopping here?" Zivila asked as they walked down the boarding ramp. "Earth Command requested it," Jack replied. "Said we need to meet a special contact." Zivila narrowed her eyes. "That usually means trouble." Jack grinned. "That's why I brought a gun." Inside the station, things were crowded and loud. Humans and aliens pushed past each other in narrow metal hallways. Neon signs blinked above greasy food stalls and weapon shops. Jack led Zevla through the maze of corridors until they reached a dark room guarded by two large men. "Captain Reeve," one said. "Your guest is waiting." They entered a smoky chamber where a short, bald man in a fine red coat sat at a round table. A glowing data cube floated above his palm. "You're late," the man said. Jack didn't flinch. "You're ugly." The man laughed. "Still funny, Captain?" Zivla stood quietly, studying the man's movements. "Who are you?" "Name's Rivek. I collect secrets." He tapped the data cube. "This one is about your treaty." Jack's smile faded. "What kind of secret?" Rivek's voice dropped. "The whole marriage was a trap. The treaty. It was never meant to succeed." Zivla stepped forward. "Explain." Rivek slid the cube across the table. "There's a secret clause, buried deep. If either side breaks the treaty even slightly, the other side gets full control of 3 border planets." Jack picked up the cube. "That would start a war." Rivek nodded. "Exactly. Someone wants the treaty to fail. They want chaos." Svela stared at the cube. "Who signed this clause?"
Ravik grinned.
"Now that..."
"Will cost you extra."
Jack leaned closer. "Or we can drop you out an airlock." Rivek raised his hands. Okay. I'll give you one name. Admiral Harkin, Earth Military. And I'll throw in another Valari counselor, Drez. They're working together." Zivla and Jack exchanged a glance. Enemies on both sides. This wasn't just a marriage anymore. It was a war hidden in peace. Back on Unity's edge. They reviewed the data in private. Zivla paced the room. "If this is true, then both our governments are using us." Jack clenched his fists. "To trigger a war, not stop one." Zivla stopped walking. "We need proof, more than just this data cube. We need to expose them publicly." Jack nodded. "Then let's dig." They began working together in secret. Zivla used her status to request meeting records, council votes, and secure archives. Jack hacked into Earth's encrypted channels with help from a trusted technician, Corporal Maya Lin. Soon, the pieces fell into place. They found signed messages between Harkin and Dresde, discussing the timing of sabotage attacks, media manipulation, and troop movement plans near the border. They even mentioned killing Zivila and blaming humans. Jack slammed the screen shut. "That's it. We have to go public." Zivila nodded. "But we must be smart. We move too soon, they'll silence us. Jack looked at her. Then let's move fast and loud. They organized a live broadcast. Not through the council, not through command, but directly to the people, Valari and human alike. Maya set up a secure channel. Zivla stood before the camera in her ceremonial dress, her glowing skin calm but firm. Jack stood beside her in full uniform, weapons at his side. This is Princess Zevela of Velar, she began. And I speak not as a symbol, but as a citizen. And I'm Captain Jack Reeve, Jack said. We've uncovered something you need to know. They explained everything: Toland's betrayal, the attacks, the hidden clause in the treaty, and the corruption on both sides. Zivela spoke from the heart. We did not choose this marriage, but we chose each other. And now we choose truth. The feed ended. For a moment, Galaxy was silent. Then the storm began. Some people believed them. Some called it lies. Some powerful leaders ordered their arrest. Unity's Edge went on lockdown, but the people were angry. Protests erupted on both human and Valari worlds. News feeds exploded with debates. Whistleblowers came forward with more proof. Jack and Zivla became more than newlyweds. They became the spark of a movement that night. As the ship floated quietly through space, they stood together on the observation deck. I didn't think it would come to this, Jack said. Zivla looked at the stars. Neither did I, but I'm not afraid. Jack turned to her. What changed you? She met his eyes. You fight for what's right, even when it's messy, even when it hurts. He smiled. I guess we make a good team after all. Zavila reached for his hand. This time, he took it and held on. Silence hung over the ship Unity's Edge like a heavy cloud. Ever since Princess Zivla and Captain Jack Reeve revealed the truth about the treaty betrayal, the galaxy had turned upside down. Others called them traitors, but one thing was clear: they were now targets. Jack checked his rifle again. He was standing in the hallway outside the princess's quarters, eyes alert. Anything? Came Maya Lin's voice through his cum. Quiet so far, Jack replied. Too quiet, Maya said. Scanners picked up an unknown ship following. Us. No. ID signal. Jack frowned. How close? About 10 clicks in closing. He tapped the side of his helmet. Sound battle alert. Wake the crew. Already done. Jack turned as Zivla stepped out of her room. She wore a sleek, armored version of her royal outfit. Even now, in danger, she looked calm. What's happening? She asked. We might have company, Jack said. Bad company. The enemy ship appeared out of nowhere, sleek, black, and fast. It didn't send a message, it just opened fire. Unity's Edge shook as explosions echoed through its frame. Inside, the command deck, red lights flashed. The crew moved quickly, shields holding at 60%. They're aiming for the engines. Jack grabbed Zivla's hand and pulled her behind cover as another blast rocked the hallway. They're trying to disable us, muttered. They want aboard. Zivla nodded. Not destroy. Capture. Jack's eyes narrowed. That confirms it. Someone really wants us dead. Or silenced. Soon the enemy ship latched onto Unity's Edge. Metal claws pierced the hull. Boarding tubes connected. Alarms blared. Then they came. Masked soldiers in black armor stormed the corridors. They moved fast and silent. Too well-trained to be pirates, Valari. Assassins? Human special forces? Jack didn't know. And right now, he didn't care. He and Zivla ran toward the core chamber. Where Maya and the security team were already fighting back, Jack raised his rifle. You stay behind me, I can fight, Zivla snapped. I know, Jack replied, but I still want you behind me. She gave him a quick glare, then nodded. Together, they charged into the fray. Blaster fire filled the hallway. Smoke drifted through the air. Sparks flew from broken panels. Jack moved like lightning, taking cover, returning fire, barking orders. Zivla stood beside him, her eyes glowing with power. With a wave of her hand, she sent 2 attackers flying backward into the wall. Maya shouted over the cum, They're trying to reach the bridge. Fall back to choke points, Jack ordered. We hold them there. Odd. But even as they pushed back, more enemies came. They were outnumbered and running out of time. In the chaos, Zevla suddenly froze. She felt something of presence. Not human, not even VLARI.older.colder. She turned down a side hall drawn by an invisible force. Zivla, Jack shouted. Where are you going? I feel something I have to see. Cursed and followed her. They reached the auxiliary engine room and found the source. A tall figure in golden armor stood waiting. Its face was hidden behind a mask shaped like a skull. What are you? Zivla asked. The figure spoke with a voice like metal scraping stone. We are the ones behind the treaty, the war, the peace, the chaos. Jack raised his gun. You're behind this? We gave your leaders the idea, the figure said. Let them think it was their own. We watched, waited. Why? Zevla demanded. Because your two species are dangerous. Alone, you are noisy. Together, you are powerful. The figure took a step forward, and that scares others. Zivla's heart pounded. So you want us to destroy each other? Figure nodded. Before you become unstoppable. Jack pulled the trigger. But the bullet bounced off the armor like a pebble hitting steel. The figure tilted its head. You are brave. That will make your fall more tragic. And then it vanished. Into light, Zivla gasped. Jack grabbed her shoulders. You okay? She nodded, shaking. That thing, it's ancient. I could feel it in my mind. Jack looked grim. Whatever it was, it's playing a long game, and we're just pawns. Not anymore, Zivla. Said back at the command deck, they regrouped. The enemy ship had retreated. Their boarding party was defeated, but Unity's Edge had taken damage. Still, the crew cheered when they saw Zivla and Jack alive. They're with us. Maya shouted. To the end. Later, as engineers repaired the engines, Zivla and Jack stood together in the observation room once more. This time, stars seemed darker. I used to think my marriage to you was the worst thing that could happen to me, Zivla said quietly. Jack gave a short laugh. Same here. But now, I don't know. She continued. You fight for me? You believe in something more? Even when no one else does. Jack looked at her. I don't care what planet you're from. You're the strongest person I've ever met. She stepped closer. You saved me. Not just from death, but from becoming someone else. Jack's voice dropped. You saved me too. They were quiet. Then slowly she leaned forward and kissed him. Not because they were forced, but because they chose each other. Hours later, senior officers met in the strategy room. We need to expose the masked figure, Maya said. Whatever it was, it's manipulating everything. And we need allies, Jack added. Real ones. People who believe in peace. Zivla nodded. We call a summit. Not for the leaders, for the people. Broadcast the truth galaxy-wide. Maya tapped her screen. Then we better get moving. Reports say Earth's command and the Valari Council are already blaming us for the attack. Jack rolled his eyes. Of course they are. Zevla stepped forward. Voice was strong now. Then let's show them what real leaders look like. Across the galaxy, rumors spread. The human and alien who chose love over lies, the princess who turned against her, own council, the soldier who broke every rule for justice. Some called them fools, some called them rebels, but many started to call them something else, hope. Space was no longer quiet. Ships moved across borders. Messages were filled with blame and threats. Earth's military prepared for a full strike. Valera's fleet responded in kind. On every planet, screens showed the same thing. The faces of Captain Jack Reeve and Princess Zivla side by side, asking for peace. But the powerful wanted war, and time was running out. Inside Unity's Edge, Jack stood in front of a star chart. Red dots glowed like sparks of fire. Maya Lin walked up beside him. This is bad. Earth's 7th Fleet is heading to Valari space, and Valari's Royal Guard is arming their sky forts. They'll meet at Etris 9, Jack said. Middle of the border? Middle of nowhere? It's a perfect place, Maya muttered. To start a war. Jack turned. Zivla had entered the room. We have to stop them, she said calmly. Jack gave her a tired look. We've tried everything. They won't listen. They'll listen to the people, Zevla replied. Just need one chance. One final message. Jack looked at the chart again. Then we give them one. At Etris 9, the plan was risky. Unity's Edge would fly straight to Etris 9 before either fleet arrived. They would land on the neutral moon and send a final broadcast across both human and Valari. Channels not a speech, not a warning, but the truth, with all the evidence they had, with their own voices. And if they were attacked, it'd still speak as... The ship approached Etris 9. Tension filled every corner. The crew moved quickly, preparing backup systems. Shields were strengthened, weapons powered up but not armed. The point wasn't to fight, it was to be heard. Jack stood in the control room, adjusting his uniform. Zivila entered, dressed in a white royal robe with glowing threads. You ready? She asked. He smiled, not even a little. She stepped closer. Then hold my hand. He did. The doors opened, and they walked to the front deck together. Outside, here the view was terrifying. Above the gray surface of the moon, two mighty fleets floated in space. Thousands of ships, cannons, missiles, plasma weapons, all pointed at each other, and now at Unity's Edge. Maya's voice came through. Both fleets are scanning us. Weapons not fired yet. Jack looked at Zivla. Time to speak to the galaxy. The broadcast began. Across Earth. Across Valari. On colonies, stations, and border worlds, people watched. They saw Jack, and they saw the princess they once called cold and strange. Now standing proudly with a human hand in hers, Jack spoke first. We were forced to marry, forced to act. But what no one expected was that we would choose each other. Zivla continued. Our leaders lied. They planned a war, not a peace. They tried to use us. Then they revealed everything. The secret treaty clause, the assassination, tempts the strange masked being working behind both sides. Messages, documents, images, proof, double quotes. Look around. Jack said, you're not fighting monsters. You're fighting your own fear. We are different, Zivla said, but not enemies, and we are stronger together. For one long minute there was silence. No ship fired, no weapon glowed. Then, something changed. One Earth ship lowered its guns. Then another. A Valari ship followed. The message had reached. Someone hope sparked, but the peace was short-lived. Suddenly, alarms blared inside Unity's Edge. Maya's voice screamed through the speaker. Unknown ship jumping in, directly above us. Jack and Zivla ran to the main window. A huge vessel appeared, black and gold, covered in strange marks. It was the masked being's ship, and it was opening fire. Beams of golden energy struck the moon. Explosions shook the surface. The sky turned red. The fleet's human and Valari began to panic. Some ships tried to fight the enemy. Some still blamed each other. But Zivla knew the truth. This is it.
Hey.
She whispered. They want to start the war themselves. Jack turned to her, and we stopped them. He looked at Maya. Get us above the moon. Set course straight for that thing. Maya blinked. You want to attack the ancient unknown death ship? Jack grinned. No, I want to board it. Unity's Edge raced through fire and debris. The black ship loomed larger and larger. Missiles streaked toward them. Zivla raised her hands, forming a glowing shield. Her alien energy pushed the missiles aside. Jack guided the ship through the chaos. Aiming straight for the docking bay, they crashed into it with a loud boom and stormed inside. Jack, Zivla, Maya, and a small team of soldiers fought there. Way in, inside the walls were dark and cold. And then the masked figure appeared again. You were warned, it said. Should have let the war begin. Zivla stepped forward. Why are you doing this? The voice echoed. Because when humans and Valari unite, nothing can stop them. Not even us. Jack raised his weapon. Guess what? You're right. They opened fire. Zivla used her powers. The figure fought back faster, stronger than before. But together, they pushed him into a power core. Zivla concentrated. Her energy burst through the room like a wave of light. The figure screamed and vanished. This time, the black ship began to fall apart. Jack grabbed Zevla's hand. Time to go. They ran back to their shuttle. Explosions lit the halls behind them. They barely made it out as they flew away. The enemy ship exploded, a golden sun blooming in the black sky. The fleets above Etrisanine watched everything. The enemy ship destroyed, the truth confirmed, and two brave souls standing together in the middle of it all. Then, one by one, ships on both sides powered down their weapons. The war was over. Before it could begin, 3 weeks later, Earth and Polari signed a new treaty. Not in secret, not in shadows, but with the people watching. This time the marriage between the princess and the soldier was not a symbol of peace. It was peace, real, honest, chosen, in the garden of a neutral station. Under soft alien lights, Jack and Zevla stood alone. "Funny," Jack said, looking up at the stars. "When I first met you, I thought you hated me." Zivla smiled. "I did." They laughed. "Now?" he asked. She leaned closer. "I love you." He pulled her into his arms. "Good, because I love you too." They kissed. Not because the world needed it, but because they did. Together they had stopped a war. Together they had changed history. And together they would shape the future.